I'm Craig Blumenschein from Prairie Public. Today on A Closer Look with the Monitor, which is our weekly chat with reporters from the North Dakota Monitor, we're looking at immigration policy and workforce challenges that are capturing attention from many industries right here in North Dakota. Changes in federal visa rules, delays in processing, and new state-level services are having ripple effects across industries and communities. Joining us to break this all down are two North Dakota Monitor reporters this week. Mary Stoyer, she's been covering immigration law developments and state responses, and Jeff Beach, he's been following the economic implications of immigration policy for North Dakota's labor market. Mary and Jeff, welcome back to A Closer Look with the Monitor.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
You bet. It's my pleasure to have both of you today. Jeff, I'd like to start with you. Your recent stories have looked at how federal immigration policy is influencing Minnesota and North Dakota businesses in many sectors. What have speakers and economists told you about the connection between immigration policy and labor availability right here in our state?
Yeah, well, I spoke especially with Bethany Retirement Services in Fargo, which is a pretty large employer, 800 employees, and they have been using immigrant workers for quite a while, and the healthcare industry has grown more and more dependent on those kinds of nurses, especially from the Philippines. They showed us a map of where their employees are from, and about 300 of the 800 employees that they have are foreign born, and a lot of them from West Africa, actually Liberia, more so than East Africa, Somalia. And the Philippines has been a hotbed for supplying more skilled workers, the nurses that are trained there. They have offers out to employees in the Philippines and are just kind of waiting for the slow process of getting immigration approvals to come across their desks so they can move to Fargo and start working.
From the economy perspective, what have economists then told you about these issues now that are kind of popping up as these different entities of our economy are trying to recruit immigrants to work here?
The statistics bear out that legal immigration has really slowed down in the last year as with the Trump administration. And people are concerned about the availability of workers in lots of sectors. Construction is the number one sector that uses immigrant labor by far. So there are concerns about being able to fill those jobs as that pipeline kind of goes down to a trickle.
Jeff, in talking with the business leaders that you've had a chance to visit with, what you've talked about is kind of a short-term thing, like a right now thing. But do we have a idea of what the long-term implications are going to be if federal policy stays in place and these folks who want to come and work here can't?
That's really their biggest frustration. Is they are fine with the border security that has been put in place, to stop the kind of wave of undocumented workers, but now they are looking for kind of a champion for immigration reform so that immigration policies can spell out how people can get here legally and work here legally and kind of bring back the flow of skilled essential workers, especially. I went to the Fargo-Moorhead, West Fargo Chamber of Commerce event. Wasn't expecting to go there writing about immigration, but the main speaker from the Federal Reserve of Minneapolis was asked about immigration and visas right away, and then a panel discussion from more state and regional leaders, pivoted to legal immigration and the need for immigrants to grow the state of North Dakota, and it really was kind of a organic topic that came out of that conference.
Mary, let me turn to you. You've been tracking efforts here in the state to provide legal help to immigrants and employers, and you can explain perhaps the role of the new immigration law service at the University of North Dakota. And Mary, isn't that intended to do exactly that, to provide assistance? And how is it adjusting to the reality that's on the ground today?
Lawmakers established the clinic during the 2025 session, and at the time, it was intended to focus more on helping potential visa workers, so people who want to immigrate to North Dakota and have a job lined up but just need help with the visa process. The reasoning being, not all companies who are interested in hiring foreign workers necessarily have the means or would offer the means to help them with the legal side of things. So if the clinic could assist people who otherwise wouldn't get that help, more workers would come to North Dakota and that would alleviate some of the workforce shortage. But what's happening in reality is the director of the clinic, Eric Rezik, he says they haven't really seen demand for that kind of assistance. They've had a couple of inquiries for help filing visas, but those just didn't end up going anywhere. And he said a big reason for this is probably because now it costs quite a bit more for employers to file applications for H-1B visas, which are for those skilled workers. It used to cost, I believe, a few $1,000s, and the federal government announced in the fall that they were raising that to $100,000. So he thinks that's likely curbing a lot of the interest in that program. And so instead, what the clinic is focusing on is helping immigrants who are already here in North Dakota but aren't working with other types of legal services, like, for example, asylum or naturalizations. And he said that when you file those sorts of things, usually if those applications are pending for a certain amount of time, that opens up a path for them to apply for work permits. And so that's sort of how they're trying to preserve the intent of the legislature to get people working, even if it's not in the way they thought it was going to go at the beginning.
Another part of your reporting talks about delays in federal immigration system today. We're hearing from immigrants and employers who are stuck in those backlogs. And so what kinds of frustrations do we hear from either employers or immigrants themselves?
Well, I mean, one of the big frustrations is that they're just not hearing anything, that they've put in applications and either have had hearings canceled or just not getting anything scheduled, and they're just kind of sitting there waiting. And there are groups like refugees from Ukraine that are here. They're being put in a tough spot because they they need money, but they are not legally allowed to work. So it's, as one kind of immigration advocate said, it's putting people's lives in danger. There are groups, in volunteer groups too, in the Fargo-Moorhead area and elsewhere, that try to help these folks out with paperwork, and especially with the language barrier. Some of them don't have great English skills, so just kind of navigating the paperwork is even just daunting to begin with. And then once you get that done, you're just kind of in hurry up and wait mode.
Mary, given those delays that Jeff has talked about and the fee increases that you've talked about for certain visas, do we know how local advocates or state leaders are responding? Are there plans or proposals to help mitigate these hurdles for North Dakota workplaces and families? Or is this wait for the federal government to solve the issue?
As far as I know, I think it's sort of in the federal government's hands. I do know that for the $100,000 fee, there are a few lawsuits against the Trump administration related to that change. And so, I mean, that could change the situation. I did hear from the Global Talent Office, which was previously the state's Office of Legal Immigration, that they're trying to pivot to trying to get international students working in North Dakota. And they said that that's a different class of visa, and so the $100,000 fee doesn't apply to them. But then the other thing I think I want to note is that, so there's another significant category of visa for seasonal agricultural workers, the H-2A visas, and I've heard different things as to whether or not those have actually been impacted by the federal government. Eric speculated that changes in immigration policy might be discouraging people from applying to those, specifically like if they fall under, in some cases, people from some countries literally can't get them now just because of the travel bans the Trump administration has put into place. But the North Dakota Job Service, who helps employers who are trying to get employees on those work visas in North Dakota, they've said they haven't really noticed a difference in the amount of demand that they're seeing. So it remains to be seen what the situation with that is.
Jeff, I want to wind this up with you. Back to the panel discussion, perhaps, that you attended in West Fargo. Are business groups proposing any policy alternatives or pathways that are interesting and worth discussion?
Actually, Eric Spencer from the Greater North Dakota Chamber, who was on that panel, and Shannon Full, who's the executive director of the Fargo, Moorhead, West Fargo Chamber, both said that they were part of a kind of a national group, chamber type group that is trying to attack this from the business side, which kind of shows you that that's maybe the group that is able to build some momentum for the legal immigration changes that they say are needed.
My thanks to both of you, North Dakota Monitor reporters Mary Stoyer and Jeff Beach, for giving us insight into how immigration policy, federal backlogs, and state efforts are shaping North Dakota's workforce challenges. And the fact is that they're real and they potentially could be long-lasting and may impact the economy right here in North Dakota. To catch up on their reporting, fantastic reading, you can read more about these developments. Just visit northdakotamonitor.com. It's free from subscriptions or paywalls. That's it for this edition of A Closer Look with the Monitor. Thanks, Mary and Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.